Boom.
Welcome to A Free Solution. I'm Kevin Wilson, your host today, joined by Tim, the Freedom Variant O'Connor.
On the road, freedom variant. I'm out spreading freedom. Even in Long Island, I take a little bit of time with the guys I'm working with to explain to them the principles of liberty. And so here I am again today, guys, right now, making a huge sacrifice because I'm absolutely gassed. I started driving my car at 3 o'clock this morning, and here I am, Long Island, after a day of hard work, talking to you.
Still doing the show for y'all.
Dang hero, guys. Give me a high five or something.
That's right. Tim's handing out probably his, pocket constitutions and pocket Hayek books and listen, have you heard about the libertarian?
I just make fun of the current system, and then when somebody makes a presumption about which side I'm going to be on, I'm like, no, that guy sucks too. And then they're just like, what? People get a little confused by that one. It's fun though.
No. Well, no, that's good. That's probably the better way to do it. You could definitely tell, what kind of libertarian are you? Are you the one who's like, yeah, but I do have a pocket constitution, or you the one who's like, I just make fun of everyone?
I'm the make fun of everyone. Yeah, that's me.
I mean, I do have a pocket constitution, but I try not to pull it out in public settings. It's been useful on the radio show because I'll just kind of pull it
wheel it out.
Yeah,
and be like, the Eighth Amendment doesn't say that at all.
Yeah, I'm like, oh look, I'm gonna read it right now. This is what the Third Amendment says.
Yeah,
it's about quartering.
Yeah,
it's still important.
Yeah, it is. It is not being able to just take your property and house troops in it.
That's right. It doesn't come up often, but if it does,
thank God,
there's gonna be some Third Amendment folks that are ready.
They're ready. Be like, get out.
That's right. All right. Well, that being said, we probably should get to the content of the actual show.
Let's do it.
So, folks, we're going to talk about the court case that just happened related to social media companies in the First Amendment. We're going to talk about that stuff. We're going to talk about some new toys that a Rochester area police department got, whether or not it's going to solve the problem. Maybe some other New York State stuff.
Yeah. We got some New York State, as always, because we're libertarians and we want freedom. We've got some weed, more on the Office of Cannabis Management. Moron. Emphasis on moron.
Moron. No, heavy marijuana topics lately. Right.
I know, a little heavy with the weed talk, but still.
But it's happening though. It's in the news. All right, we're gonna go in 3, 2.
Now, an hour of clarity for exhausted people of our nation mired in toxic partisanship. Left versus right, us versus them. While we pay to keep our politicians fighting, how do we the people rise up and solve the great challenges of our time? We do it by embracing freedom and liberty. There may be no such thing as a free lunch, but this hour is as close as it gets. Welcome to A Free Solution.
All right, welcome to A Free Solution. I'm Kevin Wilson today, joined by Tim, the Freedom Variant O'Connor.
Tim, the Freedom Variant O'Connor, on the road. I'm coming at you guys from just outside the belly of the beast. I'm about 15 minutes east of New York City. And guys, I can smell the city from right where I'm at, man. I'm not even kidding.
It's New York City. Why do they just leave the garbage out on the curb? Why do they do it? What are they doing?
I look, they do a lot of weird things there. I think they're in a little bit of trouble. They've lost a lot of people. Maybe they're not. I don't know. People that live there enjoy it, Kevin. That's all I can say.
I don't want to say it's a great city. Otherwise, I just don't understand why they leave their garbage on the curb. That's the thing that gets me. You're a modern city. Have some self-respect, New York. There's got to be a better way. Other cities do this better. They don't just leave their bags of garbage on the street.
And there's a lot of people in New York City, so that's a lot of garbage.
19th century habit.
They never grew out of it. They used to build on their garbage. That's one of the reasons they used to take their garbage, dump it into swamps, and turn that into developable land. Now, I'm not saying that would be a good idea still, but they ought to think about it because they are shipping their garbage all over New York State.
Yeah, it ends up here in Fairport.
Yeah,
That's where it is. I mean, although they did turn part of the dump into like a kind of nice park. I'll admit that they did a good job at that. I mean, if you dig down probably like 10, 15 feet, it's going to be like diapers and stuff. But
yeah, they don't cover them that much, Kevin. They cover them about 18 inches. Now they cap them with rubber first. They do quite a bit of extensive compacting, and they do a lot of geoengineering with the soils and stuff like that. So it's like, okay, I don't know. Would I want my kid playing over it? I don't know. I'd have to think about that.
I've taken my family out for a hike at the garbage park.
The garbage park. Is that what it's called? That would be a great name for it.
No, they came up with some like nice sounding name for it, but yeah, there's like a hiking trail that's a former
beautiful
dump, and it is actually nice. Except for when like the wind catches the wrong way because it's still near the existing dumping site, and the whole area smells like diaper from New York City.
Yeah. Well, congratulations, Fairport.
Yeah.
And they do fill the local politicians' coffers. Like they hand out money for this service, like big time. So
yeah,
you got politicians getting rich and getting their friends jobs. So it's a win-win for them.
Yeah, everyone wins. Sort of. Maybe not everyone. But anyway, our goal today actually was not to talk about New York City and where they put their garbage
That's true.
in Monroe County, but to talk about several other things, including an important First Amendment case, Missouri v. Biden, and what happened there. So that outline of the case is like something happened as like the week of 4th of July, where essentially this judge said, you social media companies can now no longer talk, or you government officials can now no longer talk to social media companies, because what they're doing is they're pressuring social media companies to take down posts, right? And the very act of like talking to them and reporting any specific posts could be understood as like coercive.
It was like, look, I got to jump in on this part because it was coercive. They were paying for their time. They're like, look, we need you to interact with our guy. You give us a guy to talk to. We're going to pay you for that guy. And it amounted to it. I know we talked about it, and you didn't feel like it was a substantial amount of money.
Small potatoes. Like that part. Like
it was millions. It was millions of dollars. And if you can put a couple people on the payroll, if you can put a couple of people on the payroll at a highly profitable rate, it's substantial. And what they were doing is taking down, going after guys like Alex Berenson and
it was compliance stuff. It's like, okay, the government has made this request, and we feel that we need to honor that request, even if we're not officially compelled to, because if we don't, the government is going to maybe increase regulation on us, right? So like, there's a coercive element to it. Like the fact that they got paid is more like, hey, you're going to pay us money for this because it's taking up so much time. You're asking us so many things that we can't justify like using employee hours for this type of thing, right? Like I think of the same thing, and like so I work in an agency setting. I work with a lot of clients, right? And if a client asks us to do something, we might do like a little bit here or there as a favor, but like at some point in time, we're like, nah, you gotta pay us because like now it's taking too much time to get the thing that you want to get. Right.
No, I grant that. But what I'm saying is, regardless of the interaction, there was money backing it up. That was like based on my contracting experience, right? If I can put a guy on just for a customer at the right rate of pay, it doesn't matter if it's like $100,000 a year or $200,000 a year. It has a substantial impact on the way I do business. Does that make sense? Like it was easy. It makes it easy to grow your income, and it makes it easy to do profitable work. So you want to keep that customer happy. I think that's part of what happened there.
Yeah, fair enough. But anyway, going back to like what the original thing said is that the original judge was U.S. District Judge Terry Doty, and he bans all the Department of Justice, the FBI employees, and a bunch of other public health officials on the federal side from meeting with social media companies for the purpose of urging, encouraging, pressuring, or inducing in any manner the removal, deletion, suppression, or reduction of content, and specifically flagging content or posts on social media platforms and or forwarding such to social media companies, urging, encouraging, pressuring, or inducing in any manner for the removal of deletion, suppression, or reduction of content containing protected free speech, right? So basically, this previous ruling said this, but now there's
Correct.
a stay on it. So
I know,
now
pulled it right back.
they're like, yeah, like so another court, and they said, okay, stop. We're going to go back to the status quo, and we're going to take a closer look at it.
There were tons of caveats to that whole ruling anyway. Like arguably, if they could perceive someone to be a threat, or if someone was presenting, like let's say Russian propaganda or something like that, they could be deemed a Russian agent, and then still the federal government still had plenty of room to get in there and go to work. I thought,
right,
based on the original ruling.
Do you think there's any legitimate cases where government should or ought to communicate with social media companies about the behavior of its users on its platforms?
Yeah, the economics board that's in the Congressional Budget Office ought to talk about what Joe Biden's tweets say about inflation, because the guy's a ridiculous joker. Like, he's literally wrong about everything, and he's a liar. So the Congressional Budget Office should be able to go to social media, pay somebody to go around and correct Joe Biden.
They should be pinned on the community notes.
They should be right here. The Congressional Budget Office does not agree with this statement.
CBO. Yeah, do that.
Does not agree with this statement, and they should be able to pay to have their own liaison in all social media platforms. But no, so like, look, humor aside, first of all, Joe Biden does lie about inflation, and he's literally ridiculous. But aside from that, yes, should they be able to communicate with, like, honestly, there are certain situations where they could be using Twitter to do what, like radicalize young people into violence. I don't know if I buy that one as much as I could say people are threatening violence, and the government should be made aware of that.
Right.
That one I would be okay with, but I think that they would anyway, wouldn't they?
Right.
So
yeah, I mean, and it might be something. So like the cases where there might be some legitimate thing is they should probably be going to a judge and getting a warrant for anything that would rise to the level if the government needs to talk to social media companies about this, right?
Right.
And that's that's the standard that social media companies should set for. Is like, okay, if you think that someone is likely to cause imminent violence because of their public statements on that social media platform, and then you want to get a warrant for their private communications because you got a tip that someone was planning or requesting to do a violent act, requesting someone else do a violent act, no, okay, like that might be a legitimate case for government talking to social media companies.
Sure.
But again, in that situation, what ought to happen is that the government gets a warrant, and then they present that warrant for that specific thing,
right?
And then the social media companies turn it over if there's a warrant, and that's what it should be, and not like, I mean, I don't know if there's any, or like in any other criminal case, like if there, or same thing, if there's like the social media company, I would imagine would be aware of someone trying to conduct fraud on their platform. That like Twitter and Facebook and all that, they can't keep up with this stuff all the time, but they certainly try to. If someone's trying to sell fake goods on marketplace, or stolen goods, or they're sending DMs that are just phishing stuff, and they're like, and the government gets involved because of a criminal case because it's big enough. Okay, sure, like that's a legitimate time to be able to talk to social media companies. But like, we think that Tim is spreading misinformation on Twitter. No, not their business. No. They need to stay out of that.
Yeah, then we'll get into what if Tim has access to classified material that basically breaks down Ukraine in a way that doesn't quite fit the narrative from mainstream media. Should they be able to come after me for that? Like what
classified material?
Yeah, classified material, but just like low-level classified material.
Everything that is classified is worth throwing in a cage for, Tim.
It is for sure.
If you have attained that information, well, so like, I mean, there are rules about it. It's usually like, depending on what it is, if you got that information from a whistleblower and you are, distributing that information, it's not a crime. But like the difference between like that and what like Julian Assange did was like, he incentivized people to turn over information to him and encouraged that and told people how to do it. And that's why he's in trouble. And you can say like what he did and what like other like document leakers do, organizations do is like good and worthwhile and worth
Sure.
encouraging, while also acknowledging like this is why the government has structured this as a crime.
Mhm.
I get that. I just think
I get it.
that information should be out and it shouldn't be classified in many instances. And a lot of times the government has classified stuff that's really just covering up crimes.
Absolutely. They they've got to occupy that bad person space with their own crimes. Like they can't just let criminals run wild. They've got to be there to be in the market with the bad guys to protect the United States of America and its freedoms, because they hate us for our freedoms, Kevin.
Yeah. The government, or
Yes. Yes. Exactly.
yeah. Okay, good. That's why I assumed you meant by the
Yeah.
for our freedoms.
Yeah. So yeah, no, there does get to be a wiggle room in a sticky area there for sure, right? Like, because there could be legitimate reasons why we would want the government to have access, but like you said, there's a process for that already, and
Yeah,
they can
you
get
can get a
exigent
warrant.
warrants. Yeah, get a warrant, man.
Yeah, but
And
if they're like, we don't like this, and we don't like this, and we don't like this, and you're getting so many requests for the takedown of, like, in some cases, like petty, just petty stuff, like that, like
Sure.
the go vote on Wednesday type of stuff. Like, why are government officials talking to you about that? That is so. Don't you have better things to do?
It's a danger to our democracy, Kevin.
Good Lord. Like what a waste of money all around. Like that, they're wasting money on both ends, because they're wasting money of like the employee who's going and being like a busybody and reporting that stuff. And then they're paying for the Twitter employee to go and like comply with the request for takedown and decide whether or not they're going to do that.
I couldn't imagine it being my job to do that, to be perfectly honest. I want to be clear.
I don't know. I would love that job, because I would just say like, no.
I'm not doing this.
Oh, you want me to take down that? Nah, who cares? I don't care what you want. Free speech, man.
I meant the
violate
government.
terms of service.
Yeah, but you're the government guy going and saving the world by asking Twitter to take down some Tim's random post about how stupid Joe Biden is about inflation. Like, that guy is the hero, Kevin. Unsung heroes in everyday life. The government agents.
Yeah. I know, like in that, like in the whole like Twitter files, like I think like Twitter ended up like, to me, like not looking that bad, because they said no a lot, just not as much as I wish they would have.
Right. They're still kind of talking about the Twitter files, and I don't know where it's ended, but it certainly is kind of fading away pretty quickly, right? It's getting kind of memory hold a little bit here.
Oh, sure. Well, but a different weird thing goes on every week,
That's true, man. That's true.
Like, how do you keep track?
Honestly, how do you keep track? I mean, where are we at with Hunter Biden? Where are we at with Trump? Did Georgia indict Trump yet? I mean, I don't even know. Like, I don't know the answers to these things.
They haven't indicted him yet, but they did say that the grand jury information is able to come out. So
okay,
they were trying to suppress that, and now it's that info is going to come out. So they are supposedly moving ahead with some grand jury in Georgia.
All right, this guy is going to be the most indicted president ever. It's going to be an interesting time, man.
He is. I know. Shelley says, "But what if the whistleblower is a former president?" So I wish Donald Trump was that cool. I assume that's who you're referencing. I don't think he isn't telling it. He's just sharing it with his buddies. If he was if he was sharing, like, if he was posting like docs on the internet, be like, look at the crimes that happened during the Obama administration, like, or like here's like here's the JFK files. Here's like, if he was posting that stuff and getting prosecuted for that, I'd be cheering him on. But he's not.
And
like, it's not
arguably, the one that he was talking about that he got busted on for telling them that it was still classified material was a battle plan against Cuba, I believe. And the premise was that whoever drew it up, Miley perhaps, or Millie perhaps, drew it up and said that he ordered it to be drawn up. And he's like, I never ordered this. And look, they're trying to put it on me. So I am interested in at least some of the documents that he kept. Like, I would like to know what's in them, because to me, it sounds like there might be some juicy stuff there. Or it could just be all of his daily briefings and a bunch of nonsense. He's like aggrandizing himself. I don't know.
Yeah, it could be. Listen, I'd be a lot more supportive if you're posting that stuff on Truth Social or something.
Honestly, if you had
pardoned juicy stuff, man.
Yeah, if he had pardoned Assange and Snowden, honestly, I might get in his camp. But he did none of that, right? Like he did none of that. He didn't look at the Albrecht case. He did none of that. And guys, he's the guy that started the whole COVID insanity in our country. Like I was not impressed. Like I don't buy any of his excuses or anybody's excuses for what he did there.
Yeah, 100%. And so this another comment. Obama listened to all the Verizon wireless users trying to find terrorists. Set bad example. So 10 years ago, I just got this memory on Facebook. 10 years ago, I was at a Restore the Fourth rally. I was helping to organize one in Rochester. I got the Facebook memory recently.
Nice.
Which is, the Edward Snowden stuff where we were talking about, like, depending on how radical you were, is me and a guy named Dan who were talking about abolishing the NSA, and then like other
Nice.
folks who were like, just, oh, we should have better controls in place for FISA warrants. I'm like, okay, cool. Like, you can be honest, that's better. We should pass some legislation to at least like have them get warrants.
Yeah. Real warrants, not like, what they do now.
Yeah, and then I had weirdos who showed up to the rally, the weirdo like Democratic socialists who would like showed up and like, okay, yeah, you're here because you hate the NSA, and they're like, we're here because we hate capitalism. I'm like, yeah,
wow, I didn't see it going this way.
yeah, that's okay, that's not what this is about. I'm like, all right, well, we got our newspaper, we're gonna do it anyway. All right, I guess you make your numbers look bigger. I guess you can hang out, all three of you.
All three of you, and here's a sign you can hold up.
Yeah, there's some legit leftists there who are like good and like agreed with us on like that stuff. Like there's some good folks who are there, but then like the weird, DSA folks who just wanted to yell about capitalism and hold their newspapers up.
I'm very cool with leftists that are talking and hardcore leftists, not like people that are trying to meet in the mainstream, but hardcore leftists that are talking about individual rights that aren't threatening me with the power of government and who don't have derangement syndrome about like everything. You know what I mean? Like I'm very sympathetic to them, and I really a lot of times find a lot of common ground there.
Yeah, no, I've talked with quite a few anarchists before who we have a lot of things to agree on in terms of abuses of government power.
Yeah. Yeah.
The sort of society you build afterwards is a bit different, but they're like, yeah, government power is bad and we should abolish a bunch of it. And I'm like, well, all right, yeah.
All right. Hey, we got something we agree on. I love it. Let's do that.
Yeah, but with that being said, we are starting to come up on break. Thanks everyone who's joining us here on WYSL, and of course the folks joining us for the live stream on Tuesday evening. Appreciate all the comments. We're gonna head to a break now. Talk to you in a few minutes. There's like burping in the middle of that.
Hey, look, I don't want to put a lot of pressure on you, but I'm a little bit nervous about my phone battery. Like whatever charger I got's not doing the job. So we probably want to roll right into the next segment as quickly as we can.
Let's go. We're going to go right into segment 2. Let me just make a note of the time. We're going to go in at 23:30.
All right.
We're just power through the show. Back in 10.
Yeah, we're going to have to today.
Gonna have to do it. All right. Tim's hotel radio show.
That's right.
2. Welcome back to A Free Solution. I'm Kevin Wilson, your host today, joined by Tim, the battery draining O'Connor.
Yeah, that's where I'm at, man. I'm like, we got to kind of keep this show going, and we didn't have a great conversation in between. Guys, what you can do is like subscribe to Kevin and I's podcast so that eventually I can afford better broadcasting equipment for when I go on the road. So like just do little things like that. It will work out. It will help.
Tim, you got to get like a travel like Yeti mic to go with you and like a whole setup. Yeah, you gotta we've got to maintain the quality of this show because that's really what the listeners expect.
That's fair. That's fair.
The mobile laptop, the sound booth. Obviously you got to have the all the padding, or you can do the thing like voice actors do, and you get under a blanket and you block out all the sounds.
Oh, I didn't even think about trying that. I could have built myself a little tent here.
Yeah, you get a little fort. Like you remember building a fort for your kids or anything, like just like that. And then Tim, suddenly you got a sound booth. You're going to be producing radio studio quality stuff.
Oh.
I'm sure my producer Bob's gonna be cringing at that. He's like, no, you're not. It's not.
No, he's gonna be like, Tim has literally never done that, Kevin. Never, not once. And
Not
all
once,
the times
no.
we've allowed him on the air on WYSL, we've always had problems with that guy. I mean, we don't hate him, but like he is not quality conscious.
No.
I think that's what he's going to say.
No, that's no, I'm sure not at all. But Tim is using, like, I assume, gas station headphones right now.
Oh, yeah, man. It's, woof. Yeah, you got it. I left my good ones at home, and so I had to run out and buy a new set. So, you know, I do. But it was for the viewers and the listeners, Kevin. I did
That's
it for
right.
them. Not
Yeah.
for me, for them.
Dedicated. The show must go on.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
But anyway, so we are going to talk about other things. We were talking about the First Amendment / social media case. Do we want to talk about the New York State marijuana news?
Well, we have more on to talk about the Office of Cannabis Management, and I would just keep trying to associate more on with the Office of Cannabis Management because, like, they're just nonstop. Like they changed the laws. They're cracking down on people that had those stamp stores, but now, guys, they've come up with the solution. Okay, and that solution, Kevin, is they're going to allow just now. Be careful here because I don't want everybody to think they can just go to their county fair and start selling weed because believe me, you can't. They just changed the laws.
I mean, you can now if you don't care about the police, but
right. If you want to get locked in a cage, you can now. Yes, and they've really stepped up their enforcement of these unlicensed stores, and there's a lot of it is technical stuff where these guys think they have a license or they've had a license in the past, and they think their license should have been renewed or whatever. So anyways, Kevin, they have solved the problem. They're going to be able to farmers markets and county fairs. Basically, since the rollout was so slow, since they got that injunction, since they couldn't open any stores, since the fund for opening the stores that the government was going to back, since none of that came together, Kevin, none of it really came together in any way, shape, or form. They got shook down by a company out of Michigan and they had to pay them off. Like, because of all these things that happened, people who were legitimately establishing a weed business based on the government promises to get them and help them be in business, they have stockpiles of moldy, dank kush. They're bumming. They're bumming.
Yeah. No, I mean, there's like something like 300,000 pounds of marijuana that like can't get to market because the state is too slow. And again, for farmers, it's a big deal. You got to plan this stuff like well ahead of time and, get a season.
It's a whole season.
Yeah. Like it's not, it's not like you could just stop the conveyor belt. Like that's not how it works. Like it's in the ground. It's going, like, it's got to be harvested. It's, what next? You either sell it or it just goes to waste.
And like, look, like I said, I'm not, like I said in the past, I'm not a big weed connoisseur. I'm not a big fan of weed, but the issue is that we have this Office of Cannabis Management. We have this centralized planning authority that literally has done nothing but fail at this point. Like it's done nothing. I don't know,
Yeah. Now, so what they've done now, though, is I actually agree with this move. Like, I think the only reason they're doing it is because they've created a bad situation for themselves. But actually,
Sure.
I agree. You should be able to sell. Like, my concern with it is that it's going to end up being like just as difficult to do anyway. And even though they're promising that you're going to be able to sell as soon as this summer, even though we're,
summer's almost over. Let's be honest.
They do it now.
Yeah.
But this summer you're going to be able to sell, and maybe they'll be selling at the New York State Fair, and we'll see what happens in that concerts. And okay, great. Like just let people do it then. Just let people do the thing, and I'm fine with that. And I know some people are mad, like, oh, I can't believe they would sell that. I see it as the same way as like you should be able to buy and consume these products the same way you can buy and consume craft beer and craft whiskey or in other liquors.
Cannabis is a gateway drug, Kevin, and once you start smoking weed, you're going to start shooting up heroin and snorting cocaine, and that's just a simple fact, brother.
That's certainly what some objections have said. I don't know that the evidence really backs it up.
I don't buy that evidence at all, brother. I don't at all, and I never have. And it's like fear mongering. And look, if we really get into why weed's illegal in the first place, like we go back to the Hearst Wars and the pulp machine. Like, we go back to this thing where big business stepped in and made people paranoid about marijuana because it was a distinctly productive, hemp was a distinctly productive plant that threatened their holds on their lands. It was going to lower the value of their pulpwood places. Like, it's kind of weird.
It was also like an anti-Mexican thing.
Oh, really?
Yeah, part of it was like people associated marijuana use with Mexicans, and so like oh, I mean, it's same thing. Like the drug war sounds the same. Like 100 years ago, it's like they're bringing their drugs over the border, but it was like the name marijuana was associated with Mexico, and people consumed marijuana in Mexico and called it that, as compared to like other hemp or cannabis in yeah, that like there's a whole history of that too, which is, you know,
all the tools that they always use to divide us and make us paranoid and get us fighting over things. You know, like, it grows up out of the ground. It has tons of uses. You can make clothes out of it. You can smoke it. Pain management, epilepsy management. I mean, the stuff is like, and it was used, guys, before they went through this whole paranoid thing and they realized that it could really compete. It was just something that people used and grew in their backyards. Like, I'm not making that up. It was a legit deal. It was everywhere.
That's a thing that was all over, and it's, you know, and now, so like, now I'll say this, like, I get why some people are like, I don't necessarily want to take my kids to a fair and have some dude like, you know, blowing out blunt smoke in my child's house,
I do get that. I really do. But people go to fairs and they don't get rip roaring drunk. So maybe we could work on that as a behavior.
And the jerks they were already smoking weed at the fairs.
You know, I do. I mean, I've been to places where I smell weed, so I guess that's probably true.
I mean, like, you know, like the difference is that there's going to be some people who are going to be like, I'm going to treat this like a cigarette. I'm going to go to a picnic table by myself or with my friends and smoke it there, or like in the same way they would treat, like, you know, smoking a cigarette. Like, I'm not going to do this in a crowd of people and blow this at like the stroller, right? Tim usually only does that like once or twice a month, but only if the baby is like just looking mean. I'm sure you don't do that at all, but
I don't have any babies around, thank God. They're all my kids are old, so I'm more worried about you now that you said it.
No, but no, like most people aren't going to be like antisocial, right? They're going to go and, like, you know, they're going to go off somewhere else where they're not going to be around a bunch of people and like ruining their bad time. Because, like, to me, it's like that. Like, if you're out in an open park in an open space and you're just doing your thing and you're not bothering anybody, like, fine. If you're doing it in like a crowd of people and being rude, like, all right, like, that's not exclusive to, like, you can engage in other antisocial rude behavior in a crowd too, and the type of person who's doing that is probably doing other things as well. But most people are going to, like, be respectful and not do that there like that.
And certainly, right, like, if you're going to be cool about smoking weed, and someone could say, hey guys, do you mind? I've got like 5 kids here. Could you please not smoke right there? And then you know if that person's a jerk, you know, like if they answer you snottily.
If they're like, sorry, wasn't being considerate, and they just move on. Or if they're like, being a jerk about it, which again, some people are. That's how it is.
It does happen that way. And certainly there's always still that edge of like, hey, we're going to smoke marijuana. Now it's slightly legal, but we're still slightly illegal. And, you know, I get it. Kids are going to be kids like that. They're going to sneak beers too, you know, arguably. When I was a kid, that was my thing.
No, I mean, sure, that's definitely a thing. You know, kids will sneak beers or flasks or whatever into events, and that's a thing they do, right? And so again, like, with this, I think it's generally a good idea. Are there ways it could go wrong? Of course, right? If someone's selling edibles and someone's like, "Oh, I'm gonna like inhale this entire muffin," and they're about half an hour from a bad time.
I just want to say to the kids out there that haven't tried edibles, I haven't tried them either, but I have been places where people have tried them for the first time, and it's a disaster. All right, just kind of like don't. Okay, don't do it if you're not an experienced marijuana user. Stay away from the edibles. I'm just saying, they're just like, I've seen things go sideways, and then you could like, wiping somebody's forehead with a towel. Like, dude, you're okay. Like, come on, nobody wants that. Nobody wants to be that guy, and nobody wants to be cleaning up after that guy.
No, right? You don't want to do that. It's I would just say take it easy, right? Like,
definitely take it easy.
If you don't know what because this is part of what happens with like black markets, especially like now you at least sort of know. But if you're not sure how your body's going to react to something, like take it easy. You know you don't eat a whole bag of gummies. That's not what you do. You eat like one. And a lot of people think they're going to react right away. They think that it's going to react like a beer. It does not.
Does not.
So that's just something to keep in mind as
you eat a gummy
because if you
ask the people, another one.
Don't ask the people at the fair, like, okay, like what is like, they're gonna know like what is the dosage, like talk to them about that stuff, because again it's about being informed with this stuff, and it might not be good for you. There's some people it really isn't good for you, and some people it can be an enjoyable recreational experience. For some people it can be medicinal. And listen, I'm not against edibles. In fact, that way you're not getting the stuff in your lungs, but you should know what you're getting into, and you should talk to the people around you, and also listen, don't be tempted to eat that whole bag of product, because it's probably not meant to be consumed that way.
And
you're gonna have a bad time.
We probably didn't really emphasize enough just how incompetent this whole scheme has looked right from the beginning. Like when we're looking at the Office of Cannabis Management and this licensing structure, that, guys, when we were saying like let's legalize weed, it didn't have anything to do with what the government eventually came up with. What the government eventually did was take an ownership stake in marijuana crops that haven't even been grown yet through the licensing procedure. They've taken an ownership stake in all of the stores that are eventually going to be open. They even offered to raise money, like, venture capital or angel financing, and none of it's been an completely incompetent endeavor from the practical start. And I just want to say, I freaking told you so. Like, I told you so. No one listened to me though.
No. Just us libertarians getting mad about it, and
we knew it was going to be this. We knew it was going to be a mess, bro.
So it's going to happen, and so we're left with the regime that we're left with. Like maybe there's some good stuff that's going to be mitigated. I would hope that we keep moving towards the direction of like just making it easier and giving people more freedom. Just because like they're going to see the failures of California, and we're going to see failures in New York, and hopefully we just get to the point of like, if we're going to do this, like, I hope it doesn't come to. We failed so badly that we may have to actually legalize cannabis now.
I don't know. That would be kind of cool. That would be a good end result.
But I mean, Kevin, it's kind of what happened with Colorado, actually.
Prisons don't fill themselves, though, Kevin. And I'm just saying,
right.
The prison industrial complex is, So anyway, that I don't mean to be so negative, but it just was a boondoggle. It just looks so bad.
Nope. But we'll have to do that. And then along with that too is like the reason why I mentioned all that stuff. There's some people on the radio like, man, why is Kevin talking about consuming edibles? It's just, if you're curious about that stuff, like do some research and take some personal responsibility, because that's what comes with freedom, right?
Yeah, sure.
It's freedom requires personal responsibility. So like you're going to consume anything, consume it in a safe way, consume it in a way that you understand how it's going to affect you, and understand like if you need to drive or something afterwards, it's not safe. You need to know that. You need to act accordingly.
And honestly, Kevin, let me put it out there, because I know we have a lot of conservatives that listen to us on WSL. I would say that fiscally, I'm more conservative than most of you guys are. Like, by far, I am legitimately talking about smaller government and individual freedom. But freedom doesn't come without responsibility. And I'm the first guy to admit that. Like, I'm the first guy to encourage my kids to be responsible. Like, that's a reality. So, like, I'm more conservative than you. I'm obviously more liberal than you. But listen to me and talk to me, and we'll have these conversations, guys. That's what I'm here for.
All right. On that note, though, we do have to head to a break. Thanks again for joining us here on A Free Solution. We're going to be back in just a few minutes. Talk to you soon. All right. And I know we got to get back soon.
Yeah, we got to get right back.
Patricia, you're not supposed to eat the whole bag?
No, you are.
The plastic
not
doesn't digest well.
Good
one. I saw that. That was a good one.
Yep.
Had to throw that one on screen. Good joke.
Yeah, that was a good one. I don't, guys. If you're having fire comments, I'm not even getting to see them. I apologize, because it's like.
Oh yeah, it's all on me. So
yeah, it's all on Kevin. Kevin's not sharing them with me.
Yeah,
I'll check them out later.
Yeah, can't use cannabis because of drug testing by potential employers. Yep, no, that's a thing. Like employers, and some people get confused by this. They're like, oh, we can't They
It's
can't test us
legal.
anymore. I'm like, nope, they 100% can test you. That's
Yep,
there's
that-
lots and lots of jobs, and employers can basically do it just because.
yep. Just because they don't like weed.
Yep, that's what it is. But
Yeah.
so anyway, we're gonna get back in 10 seconds.
Yeah.
And yeah, we'll back in 5, 4, 3. Welcome back to A Free Solution. I'm Kevin Wilson, your host today, joined by Tim the Freedom Variant O'Connor.
I'm still here, Kevin, and I feel like I'm rushing everything tonight, but I don't even remember what our next topic was going to be. Do you?
Oh, who knows? I mean, we had several things that we talked. We talked about the ATVs in Irondequoit, New York.
We
talk
could.
about those.
That would be good.
But so we could talk about those. So
We should
yeah.
really. We should.
Let's talk about it. So there's still a problem on the streets, Tim. Still a problem that people
Rough
are
Riders?
using. Rough Riders. That's right.
Rough Riders
exactly.
rolling, bro. All right.
So there's some folks who are driving around using ATVs and dirt bikes, and what happens is like they'll get in a big group, they'll kind of roll down the street. Occasionally they'll do things like run through a park or on people's lawns or whatever. Police will try to chase them, and then they'll go through people's backyards or on trails where police cars can't go, and they're not able to catch some of these. And then although when they do catch the kids on the dirt bikes and stuff, they usually now crush the dirt bikes in a lot of cities.
Eric Adams is famous for sending a bulldozer over a couple hundred. And look, guys, so you guys that are doing this, you need to knock it off, because in New York City, what they came to this stunning conclusion, right, was that they would confiscate these bikes when they saw them in your driveway, and then they would take them because they made the bike itself illegal, which is so weird that now the police in New York City have the power to confiscate them. So what I'm telling you, the libertarian in me says, stop damaging other people's property. It's nonsense. And honestly, I'd hate to, conservatives are going to win this argument, right? They're going to be like, hey,
well, it is
we're going to
obnoxious.
crush your bike. Sure it is. It's absolutely inappropriate.
Yeah,
Absolutely
in my neighborhood, it hasn't been bad at all this year. Knock on wood, it stays that way. In 2020, it was pretty bad. 2020, it was, they're like, I live next to a park, and people were tearing up the park. Like, it would just be a muddy mess because people were driving through the park.
In 2020 during the COVID lockdown.
During the COVID lockdown.
I'm
that's right.
I'm going to go with that was a protest, Kevin.
Safe outdoor activities. They were, drive around there and light off fireworks because, you gotta
stand up to the government. Somehow. That's different. What happened in 2020 was different.
It was defiance then. But it is obnoxious. If they do that 1 a.m, man, I'm almost feeling like the conservative. I'm like, oh man, I'm gonna call the cops.
I know.
My child in 2021 when they were doing, my child is sleeping. Shut up. But so it is and again, in some neighborhoods is the thing. People drive around, they'll be loud, they'll hang out and do wheelies in the intersection. So Irondequoit police, they've decided to combat this by adding ATVs to their own arsenal, and
that's good news. That's good news.
That's the only way.
Look look,
man, is by buying these ATVs, and they can go where all the other people can go, and they can drive among the other ATVs and dirt bikes because they have.
So when you sent me that link to the article, I have a bunch of friends that are into ATVs, and they like the side-by-sides. They like to have decent quality stuff. Not one of my friends, not my richest friends, have ever spent $31,000 on one ATV. Now, and look, guys, they spend money. They have money. This is real, okay? Never, ever have they ever spent $31,000. So it's okay, well, we've got to catch these kids with these cheap little dirt bikes. We need a $35,000 ATV. And where'd they get the money, Kevin? Where did they get this money from? The budget? Did the people of Rochester and Irondequoit just say, you know what, you guys need better?
What's that name?
Yeah, Irondequoit.
Irondequoit.
Whatever.
Yeah, folks listening at WISL can tell Tim is not from the Rochester area.
I said Fairport.
Yeah, Fairport, Parenton. I'm gonna have you pronounce Canandaigua and Charlotte on this show.
I can say Canandaigua. I had a friend from there, So that one I'm
All
familiar
right, so you
with.
know
But
Canandaigua. That's good.
yeah,
Um,
okay, say it again.
Irondequoit.
Irondequoit. Okay,
And I'm probably even because I'm from Utica, Rome area. Someone's probably like, no, it's Irondequoit or something. Like it's,
yeah,
yeah,
they want to change
add
it.
more the Rochester accent.
Kevin didn't get it right either, but he's
Probably
closer.
not. But anyway, so yeah, they spent $93,000 on 3 of these ATVs. $93,000.
Guys, but yeah, it's nothing compared to like the used military surplus that they probably are accumulating. So, don't worry.
Yeah. No, but it's a lot of money for this stuff, and it's I don't know, it's wild that, like, I mean, you get into this mindset where, like, oh, we got to do anything to solve the problem. Here's what we're gonna do, and I don't know, like, I would love to see some fiscal responsibility. I don't live in this town. I live in the city, which wastes its money on like lots of other stuff. To be clear, but
right, for sure.
But I don't know. I don't know that like this is going to solve the problem. It sort of feels more like these aren't necessary tools. They are kind of additional toys that seem cool. It made it seem like, again, it's that government thing where like they have to look like they're solving a problem, and like sometimes spending a bunch of money on equipment gives the impression that they are leaning towards solving a problem.
Right. Yeah, no, I get that. I think that's one of the problems. Like one of my complaints about policing, is that, like, again, we get into this liberal mindset of if we throw money at the problem. We've got the conservatives saying, if we throw money at this problem, we'll solve it. And then we've got liberals saying, if we throw money at that problem, we'll solve it. And none of it solves it, Kevin. You know what I mean, right?
Yeah, I do know what you mean.
Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was just gonna say like that, but that's how they say, like, hey, we appropriate this many hundreds of thousands of dollars to address poverty in our community or to address crime in our community, right? And like as if that is like the thing that works. Like we've appropriated this money. And by appropriate, they mean like stolen from you to go and like
give it
in
to somebody
theory
else.
solve this problem, to give the like to other bureaucrats in some cases or government officials. And
government program. Every government program that ever started never solved a problem. It just continues to exist, right? Like that's the deal. Speaking of government problems, you did send me a link to something, and I'm like, I think we've got to cover it. Like, I think we've made fun of the police enough, and we've explained to the kids that they're causing their own demise here, right?
Yeah.
Like,
no, you shouldn't do that. Like, the people doing that, like,
dumb. Stay off my yard, you dang brats! Like, what?
Get off my lawn.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Jesus. For God's sakes.
Anyway, what was the other thing you want to talk about? Was
the law of unintended consequences, right? I think it was Massachusetts, Cambridge, Massachusetts, decided to take, excellence in math classes, algebra, away from 8th graders in favor of some sort of social notion of social justice, equity kind of nonsense. It's absolute garbage. So they take away special math classes, and what happens? Nobody gets the math class anymore.
Right.
Compared to Texas, right, who says everybody's got to take algebra in 8th grade. They have a 60% success rate. Like you have to opt out of taking the upper level math in 8th grade, or the harder math in 8th grade. Let's call it algebra in this instance. 60% success rate. 60% of the kids are exposed to this math. So what did Cambridge do? Who did they actually screw here?
Right. And let me explain like the problem that they think they're solving first. Right? What they think they're solving is that there is a racial inequity between the number and percentage of students who are taking like advanced upper level math courses and students who are taking either like regular level math courses or remedial math courses. Right. And so because they have perceived the racial difference in people who have access to these classes, and by access, I mean who end up actually taking these classes, therefore, no one should have them because the classes themselves are what's perpetuating the inequity. Instead of acknowledging that, like, hey, there are in fact African-American students and students of color who are taking these advanced classes and are benefiting from them. And we should work on making sure that there are more students who have access to these classes, because sometimes the access is like resources in a community or resources in a school district and how many classes we're able to offer. So they might limit stuff. we should work towards making it so that more students can take those advanced classes and making sure they're caught up and addressing the problems for why there is a disparity, instead of being like, we don't like the look on paper of the fact that there is a disparity here, so we're going to just like not have it by not having this racial imbalance in the upper level math classes.
Yeah, I mean, it's like math is unfair. Is it though? Like isn't math great for a kid's brain? And the more kids you can get exposed to it, awesome. So, guess Kevin, I mean, you probably already know, but who still has access to extra math or better math?
Yeah, it turns out if you are a kid with a family with resources, you can still hire tutors and you can do other stuff. There's still going to be inequity, but now like the school can't measure it, so who cares, right?
Yeah,
like
it's just amazing.
I mean, I say this as a mathlete in high school. I did athletics.
That's horrible.
Which doesn't necessarily make me advanced. I didn't take the advanced math classes because I blame my handwriting. I wasn't like, we only had one, and they're like, nah, you got an A and not an A plus, so like, you can't be the advanced math and science. I'm like, oh, all right.
Yeah, I probably didn't drive the point home about what Texas did. They basically said, everybody's got to get exposed to this class. They literally, if you don't want to take this class,
that's the default.
Your mommy and daddy got to sign you out of this class. And so instead of having like every kid is now exposed to that class, or at least 60%, whereas like compare that to Cambridge, where 0% of the kids are exposed to algebra in 8th grade. Texas is like 60% of our kids are exposed to algebra. It's an amazing explanation of the law of unintended consequences, and it's like, just stop your social justice warrior stuff, man.
Yeah, well, I mean, nonsense. Like it's this toxic mindset that ends up happening, right? Because like what they think like the way to solve inequity is to like drag everyone down, right? And like this will happen with schools, like in some districts where you have like some level of school choice, they'll say like, oh, there is one particular school that is doing better. But they're being selective about who can get in. You know what we have to do? They're being too selective, and it's creating a racial imbalance or whatever imbalance they're trying to say. Therefore, we have to make it less selective, and then everyone will benefit from that. Like, well, that's not necessarily how it works. Like sometimes it's a good thing for schools to be more selective, because then students can be with other like-minded students who could then excel and do better than they would in a different school where their students who are less serious about their studies, and then they might not engage as well because class is distracting, or in the case of the city of Rochester, violent, or you don't have as many resources. Like, you should allow those special schools, like the charter schools or the magnet schools or whatever it is, to exist, to be able to work with students who are advanced. And the goal shouldn't be to like keep everyone down so you have some semblance of artificial equality. It should be to figure out how every family, regardless of background or skin color, can get into those places.
Absolutely, brother. That was really well said. You brought that image, you brought that issue home, like where it should be, where it belongs. That was great. Yeah.
So I mean, that's what I mean. Yeah, I saw that. I retweeted this a couple of days ago, so you can find it at Kevin Wilson ROC if you want to see what we're talking about. Now, actually, I'll share the tweet here too in the thread. But like I agreed with the person who posted this. Like, this is just, it's such a bad idea. It hurts. It ends up hurting everyone to just like eliminate this opportunity for folks because you see an inequity, and it's just like that. The people who like get to a certain level of wokeness where like you stop thinking.
I mean, honestly, I think that to me is, you just did a nice job of describing wokeness in a way. Like I want people to love each other and understand that we're like one race, the human race. And I want all of these artificial racial constructs to go away. But like wokeness is identity politics at its heart. And it's like divisive politics at its heart. And that doesn't mean like, I just think there's a better way to approach it. It doesn't mean I don't want to hear about your history and I don't want to compare it to my history. It's none of that, right? It's none of that. Yeah, it's an emotional mindset, and I as emotional as I get when I'm talking politics, I don't want every decision to be an emotional decision when it comes to politics.
Yeah, 100%. And no, that's good. I'm just trying to like, do I have time to like actually respond to that before we run out of time? And the answer is no, I don't, because
I get the last point of the day. I love it.
Yep. No, actually, we have to actually stop in about 30 seconds. So thanks again joining us here on WYSL. Maybe we'll keep going until Tim's battery dies, or like 2 minutes longer. But
yeah, we could go for another minute or two.
Yeah. But thanks again for joining us on the Free Solution. Have a great night, WYSL audience. All right. Yeah. No, it's no.
So hang on though. I just want to be.
Go ahead.
Something. First of all, I'm like under 10%, but upload. I got this note: uploading recordings. Please stay in the studio until your recordings are done uploading. If that helps you with processing the video, then we should probably end the show.
End the show now. So
yeah, probably end the show right now. And I apologize, guys.
No. Normally we go longer. That's
yeah.
But yeah, that does help because. The behind the scenes magic, folks. I edit the recording separately, so if Tim like coughs a bunch into his mic or I cough in the mic, it makes it easier to edit if we have separate soundtracks. So
yeah,
we got to do that. But sorry we couldn't do a longer show tonight, guys. Just the bare minimum. But appreciate all of y'all who are here and all the
believe
comments.
me, I appreciate it, and that's why I did this, guys. Like I this means something to me. I hope it means something to you. Thank you for joining us. I mean, I did it on the road, you know, like I'm gassed, I'm tired, but I'm here for you guys.
Right on. All right. Have a good night, folks. Take care.